the lived experience to check in on your colleagues of color and students and open a dialogue and invite the conversation. So today we are so pleased to be partnering with the Positive Coaches Alliance, and they lead us through their dynamic workshop on Sports Can Battle Racism. Get ready to be uncomfortable. Lean into discomfort, as we all know that is where the greatest learning can happen. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to proudly introduce Jodi Mcgarrity, who will talk us through the next steps as we prepare to work together. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Anthony, and good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here to our Positive Coaching Alliance Sports Can Battle Racism Workshop. Again, my name is Jodi Mcgarrity Jr. I am actually coming to you from Round Rock, Texas, 20 minutes north of Austin, so it is good to be with you all. I have been a part of PCA for 4 years now, but I am grateful to be a part of this workshop and to partner with you all. I'm just going to go through some brief Zoom formalities because the real superstars are in the room, and these two ladies are going to be able to bless us with a great workshop. If you would not mind, there's two views. Of course, you all might be familiar with Zoom already, but the gallery view is probably going to be the best suggested view. If you focus more with the speaker, you can focus on that speaker view. What we would like to do is get a little bit more information from all of you great directors who are here with us today. So if you would not mind hovering over to the video portion of your screen, click on those ellipses next to unmute, and then go to rename. And if you could, please, next to your name, add the school that you're representing and your years of experience. We would greatly appreciate that. If by chance you might be on this workshop with a phone or a tablet, you'll get to rename yourself by pressing on the Participants tab, then press on your name, then press on rename, and then add the school that you're representing and your years of experience. We're going to have quite a bit of dialogue in the chat. So before you hit enter, do make sure that's on everyone so we all can see your response. If you hit enter with someone's name on that tab, you'll send them a private message. So definitely make sure that's on everyone if you would not mind. Also, if you are having any technical difficulties, I'm your producer for this workshop. I'll be working behind the scenes. There's a virtual hand feature that you'll get by the reactions tab, actually. So you click on that reactions tab, hit that virtual hand, and we'll definitely make sure that you have a smooth transition. But we greatly appreciate it. We do have a text assigning which gives you credit for this workshop, and we'll provide some additional resources, but we are going to save that at the end. We want to go ahead and get started with our workshop. Without further ado, we're going to hand this over to Miss Marty Reed.
Thank you so much, Jodi. Good morning to the West Coasters. Good afternoon to the East Coasters. My name is Marty, and I'm one of the facilitators for today's workshop. I've been with PCA for 7 years now. I'm coming to you from the Los Angeles area. My role at PCA is our National and Corporate Partnership Manager. My sports background, I played softball at UCLA from 2008 to 2012 and won a championship there in 2010. I'm very passionate about the work we do, teaching life lessons through sports, and I'm just excited to be here and share this experience with you today. And I'll pass it over to my co-facilitator, Sam. Go ahead.
Thanks very much, Marty. Hello, everyone. Hello, leaders. I'm Sam Salvia. I'm coming to you from Portland, Oregon today. I have been a trainer with PCA for more than a decade now. And it was interesting to see the video that Anthony shared in the very beginning with the Flint water crisis, because my day job is that I'm a water resources engineer. So in addition to spending a lot of time thinking about how we can create a healthy environment in youth sports, I spend a lot of time thinking about how we can provide safe and adequate drinking water across the country, primarily focused in work in California. So it was interesting to see that in that video that we just shared. So the workshop we've got for you today is called Sports Can Battle Racism. And this is a workshop that actually all three of us, Marty, Jodi, and I, worked together on to develop this summer after the murder of George Floyd and further social reckoning in the US. PCA decided to develop a workshop for coaches and for leaders like yourselves around sports can battle racism. I'm humbled to hear that this is the final speaker presentation that Nomad's having for the year, and I hope that you're going to find it very engaging and perhaps different from some of what you've experienced before. with that, and with the idea of trying to make this highly participatory, I wanted to share that our model of double goal coaching. This is the foundation of Positive Coaching Alliance. The idea that we are seeking to have coaches who both strive to win and teach life lessons, and not just any life lessons, but the right life lessons. I know you as athletic directors have spent a lot of time thinking about this, and we know that sports can teach, if we're not intentional about it, it can teach the wrong life lessons. So to encourage that participation, get things started this morning, I want to go ahead and fire up the chat and thank you, Jim, and some of the other folks that are dropping in there. Wow, Susan, 23 years of experience as an AD. Go ahead and drop into the chat right now to get us warmed up what some of the life lessons you hope sports is going to instill in the athletes that you lead. All right, I see the responses coming in. Respect for others, commitment, integrity, teamwork, goal setting. Oh, they're coming in fast now. Perseverance, hard work, fortitude, doing the right thing, accountability, positive character traits, sportsmanship, ownership, perseverance. We're seeing that responsibility again, that respect again, community. That's a great word. Losing as an opportunity to improve, confidence. These are tremendous. It is clear that sports is a lesson-rich environment. And so today we're specifically going to be talking about sports as a vehicle to battle racism. Thank you for all of those responses. And I'm excited that the group's already pretty fired up. I think we're going to have some great participation today. Another opportunity for you to participate is you've had a chance to meet me, Jodi, and Marty. We'd like to learn a little bit more about you. So in this activity, what I'd like you to do is you can either raise your actual hand or you can raise your virtual hand using the reaction button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I'm going to read some statements, and if they're true for you, I would like you to go ahead and indicate that. So first one is raise your hand or give us some indication if you felt any hesitation. Now we can see each other better. Thanks for the reminder, Marty. So raise your hand if you felt some hesitation coming to today's workshop. All right, this group's game. Raise hand if you are curious about what you might learn today. Thank you, Linda, Brian, seeing some hands go up. And let's see hands for those who have been in athletic administration more than a decade. I know right off the bat we have Susan. There we go, 5, 6, 6, 7. Okay, so there's a wide range of experience on the Zoom today. And those of you that are new to your role as an athletic administrator. Couple. And let me see show of hands for those of you for whom the majority of athletes that you work with are the same race as you. Okay, a few. Let me see hands for the majority of athletes that you work with that are a different race from you. And I'm guessing many of you might have been athletes yourselves. So if you were, let's see hands for if you have been coached by someone that looks like you. Okay, a mix. Anyone on the call that's never been coached by someone that looks like you? Quite a few, okay. Those that raise hands, I'm guessing this is going to be nearly everyone. For those of you that lead athletes that speak multiple languages. Yeah. And then raise hands for anyone who has ever felt, either you can think about this in your role as an athletic director or in the teams that you've been on, if you've ever felt excluded from the group that you're part of. Okay. See a few hands. Thank you for that. All right. Well, thank you for your participation and the warm up. We're going to be hitting on some of these themes as we continue in our workshop today. I do want to take a moment to read a unity statement that we've put together from PCA, and this will be one of the few times that I'm actually going to read a slide to you, but I want to make sure that we use the exact wording that PCA's developed. This is very important to us. At PCA, we understand that there are many groups facing discrimination in our country. We support all these groups, especially regarding the access and experience they have in sports. Much of today's workshop will focus specifically on the Black experience, given the recent tragic events and impact of systemic racism on Black Americans in our country. We believe that if we come together and address these issues, the benefits will be wide-reaching for all marginalized groups and help unify our society as a whole. With that, I want to talk a little bit more about what you can expect from us today. So PCA talks about youth sports culture, ideally high school sports culture, being a development zone, contrasted with the entertainment culture that we see in professional sports. And while we want every coach to be a double goal coach, we'd like every athletic administrator to be a single goal leader who's focusing on defending this development zone culture. So given today we're going to treat this workshop as a development zone, that means we're looking for to treat each other respectfully. We're hoping, like Anthony said in the beginning, that this is going to be a brave conversation, a brave space, that we'll be talking about race, which is an uncomfortable topic for many of us. Well, many of us aren't used to talking about it publicly, or at times are told to just ignore it. So today we're hoping that you will be vulnerable and you'll be open to having a brave conversation. Along those lines, hoping that everyone can participate with intention for the next hour or so, clear the distractions and be able to be fully present with us today. Like Jodi said, we'd love if you can share your screen, your camera, so we can see faces, especially when there's discussion going on. And then finally, being willing to learn and to grow. You know, we love our mistake ritual at PCA, the idea that the most sticky learning comes from making mistakes, and mistakes will be made. I have already made one today, forgetting the screen share, and that's just an easy minor one to overcome. I'm sure we're going to have more today, and I hope that as good teammates, we're all going to help each other learn from them and move from there. So our goals for today's workshop are hoping by the end of today that you have developed some curiosity and honesty around the topics and the experience of Black Americans in the US. We're hoping to educate, recognizing that some of the information we're going to share is not new to folks on this call, but hoping that when we look at it through a sports lens, there might be some new learnings or some new insights. And then finally, what I think is the most important part of the day, commitment. Really thinking about how we can make what we talked about actionable in the space where all of you are working with athletes and with coaches. So with that, thanks, Marty.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, so let's jump right into our first workshop goal for today, curiosity and honesty. We're going to increase our consciousness of marginalized perspectives, which is very, very important. I think the first step in DEI competency is listening to understand unique stories that are outside of our own. I think as trainers, we want to be vulnerable with you and share our why this conversation is important. And we want you to also reflect and think why this conversation is important to you. So with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing just to share my why briefly. You know, I grew up in a Black community, a Black home, as a Black female athlete. But when it came to my sports and my education, I was often in predominantly white spaces. So often the only Black girl on my softball team, only Black kid in the advanced or gifted classes, usually the target of inappropriate, ignorant comments, microaggressions often. And when it came to, my Blackness, they would attribute it to things like violence or poverty. But when I achieved something or was selected to lead a team, they would say, oh, Marty's not Black, she's different, as if it was a compliment. And they truly believe that they were complimenting me in those moments. And I believe that, it's not enough just to acknowledge racism when it's overt and blatant. We must also acknowledge when it's subtle and unconscious as well. And if we come together and have more conversations like this, we can see a better society for all. So that's my why this is very important to me. I'd like to turn it over to Sam to share your why, and then we'll also have one of your members of Nomad share their why as well as we get started.
Thanks, Marty. You're always a tough act to follow. My why is related to the fact that for too long, I have taken a false comfort in the notion that because I believe I don't hold racist ideas, that's good enough. And I viewed for many years, I mean, until the last few years, I'd say, and I became more educated, I viewed racism as an individual phenomenon, something that is based on individual beliefs, and didn't recognize the systemic nature of it. And I think I still will never truly understand all of the ways that I have benefited, that my path has been a little easier, that my opportunities have been a little broader because of the color of my skin. So I have spent many years focused on trying to get more girls in sports and more women in coaching. And I realize now that work is important, but it has to be intersectional. It has to recognize the role of race. I have a platform as a coach, as a PCA trainer, as a parent, and I intend, and this conversation is important to me because I see this as a way for me to learn and for me to use this platform to help hopefully move the needle a little more in the direction of social justice and equity. So I'm really excited to learn from all of you and to share some of the content that Marty and I have brought, and hopefully have a really rich discussion.
Thank you for sharing, Sam. Very powerful. Amanda Snyder, I believe you're going to share why from your team side, if you don't mind. Come off mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Snyder. It is so good to see you all, Marty and Sam. Thank you so much, and all the Nomad family. Blessed to be here today. I will try to make this as brief as possible. I wrote it out, and there's so much I want to say, but I'm going to try to keep it concise. I'm going into my second year as an assistant director of athletics in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, at Broken Arrow High School, where we have around 3,800 athletes from 9th through 12th grade, 3,800 students, excuse me. And we serve around 1,600 athletes of all different backgrounds, races, cultures, ethnicities. And so, my background is that I started coaching in 2006. I've coached pom and co-ed cheerleading all the way up until December of 2019. And I've worked with athletes of all ages, from middle school to college Division I level, athletes of all different backgrounds. I'm Native American from the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribe. And growing up playing soccer and track, and then I was on the University of Oklahoma Pom Squad. I was given so many opportunities, and thankful that I had people that believed in me and that promoted me. Sports is where I learned so much about diversity, what that actually is, and to be unified as a team. And also that sports can be reflected later in life, because you have the us against the world mentality in sports, and teaching athletes the importance of believing in yourself, your team, respecting differences, and growing together. That's how I was impacted as a younger athlete. The role I'm in now as an assistant AD is a job I don't take for granted, because if I can impact one person on earth in a positive way, especially when it comes to standing up against injustice and racial discrimination and having these difficult conversations, I want to be ready. And Nomad has helped me by giving me tools to succeed in this career, because they've instilled a sense of confidence that we indeed have a calling and how to stand up against racism and hatred in sports. The guiding principles of Nomad align directly with my core beliefs. The first principle states that it's our job to promote ideals of diversity, equity, inclusion within our profession, and it's our job to maximize the impact we have in the work that we do with the young people that we teach. Battling racism in sports is our chance to make a positive impact. And for me personally, this is greater than politics. This is a life passion that I believe I have a social calling to forever fight this when it comes to young people. Working with athletes is very complex, as you all know, because we're leading and we're molding young men and women on a daily basis. We have to show up every day ready to give them everything we've got and to pour into them and add value to their lives. And I believe that I want to say that, in my opinion, racism in athletics, there should never even be a topic about it. And I want to say that out loud, because I believe the more we speak about it, the more we speak the truth, what is right, and we bring more awareness to the subject, the more impact we can have. And it's unsettling that we even have to worry that there's a chance that someone could say something inflammatory or act in a certain way that's disrespectful to our athletes. So my hope is that if and when this does happen, we as athletic directors, coaches, those striving to pursue this career field, that we continue to lead with integrity and our voice to those who need us. It is our job to lead with intentionality on this subject so that we can unite people by educating those who are working with our kids and equipping ourselves and our teams emotionally and mentally. My role is to be an advocate for student athletes every single day to ensure fair games, quality opportunities, and to provide an experience that will build champions for life. A couple weeks ago, I was in the airport, and just want to share this real quick, going with our varsity cheer program to nationals. And I picked up a magazine real quick called Fast Company. And on the inside was an article called Presence to Power. It's a topic on social justice. And it says, we're trying to help people recognize we can't have charitable solutions to structural problems. You might be helping, but these aren't ways to undo the inequality. All this to say, the undoing of structural problems within our society is going to take a lot of time. But when we have a group of people that are invested to seek to improve the lives through athletics, I believe that's how we will win, and that's how we will change and make lasting effect in society. Racism in sports is a multifaceted topic that I could go on and on about, but I could sum up all of my thoughts on this topic in a few final sentences. Student athletes are my passion. They come first in my thought process and in every decision that I make. I want to use my platform for good because racism shouldn't exist in this world or in sports, but at times, as we have all seen, it does. And it is our job to promote each other and to build alliances against it. I feel I have a social responsibility to be informed and to be willing to speak up and be aware of this topic in sports. And when the time comes for me to step into an even greater role to influence others, I want to be ready. The time is so important right now. Leaving you all with a quote. Dr. King said it perfectly. In the end, we will not remember the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Speak up, friends. Act, and don't let this slide. Help your coaches, help your athletes and their families, and together we can overcome racism in sports. And if I can ever help any of you, I certainly want to be of assistance, and I'll put my contact in the group chat. Thank you all so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Amanda. Very, very powerful words. And I'm sure a lot of people on this call can relate to those very inspiring words that you shared with us today. So thank you for your vulnerability and your passion. I want to share another story here from an athlete who is recalling his experience integrating his high school football team back in 1968.
The school's mascot was a Confederate colonel. And at football games, when you came out on the field, the crowd would be hollering and the Dixie would be playing, and they'd hold a paper flag up and the team would burst out through the Confederate flag. The black players made a decision to run around the flag. We had teams who refused to play us because we had black players. There were always racial comments, banners with the N-word. And at one point in time, there was even a dummy with a noose around its neck hanging from the goalposts. I remember we played a all-white school. The game was maybe only in the second quarter. My brother tackled their tight end and broke his collarbone. And when they had to take him off the field with his arm in a sling, that's when the crowd really got ugly. We were on the visitor's sideline, and they were coming across the field. So we backed up against the fence. I remember the coach saying, "Keep your helmet on." So I was pretty afraid. And then a hand reaches through the fence and grabs my shoulder pads. I look around, and it's my father. And I turned to my brother. I said, "It's okay, Dad's here." The state police came and escorted us to the buses. The crowd is still chanting and throwing things at the bus. And as the bus drives off, I look back and I see my father standing there and all these angry white people. And I said to my brother, "How's Daddy going to get out of here? They might kill him." We get to the high school, and the most incredible feeling I think I've ever had was when my father walked through the door of the locker room and said, "Are you ready to go?" As if nothing had happened. And I wanted to tell him, Dad, don't come to any more games. But selfishly, I couldn't. I needed him there for me to feel safe. Normally, when you're with a team, you feel like everybody's going to stand together. And I never got that feeling that the team would stand with me if things got bad. I think a number of the white students who were there with me would say, now, if I could have did something different, I would have said something. But that's what evil depends on. Good people to be quiet.
I want you all to take a moment and utilize the chat box here and let me know what struck you most about this story. What are some feelings that this strummed up? And some of the things that were shared in the story and the last sentence there, similar to what Amanda shared, with her quotes as well. Share with us some feelings that were strummed up during you watching this story. Powerful, solid. Yes. Anger, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people felt some anger strum up a bit when listening to him reflect on his story. I want you to take a moment and think, what do you think your athletes at the schools that you lead would feel after hearing this story? What are some things that they would say? Take a moment and share that in the chat box. What do you think your athletes would say after hearing this story? A team should stand up for each other in a situation like this. Thank you, Linda. I wonder what his father did to safely make it back to the school. Yeah, I wonder that too. Yes, thank you. In 2021, we're still hearing stories of racism at high school games. Sad, absolutely. So we've actually played this video for some athletes and other coaches as well who have really thought that, a lot of athletes would say, well, this was a long time ago. They might feel disconnected after hearing this story, shocked that it happened, but disconnected because they feel it was so long ago, right? And saying times are different now, and thinking that things have changed. Well, we did a search to find, some examples of this still happening today. And we were only planning to find a few examples to share, but there were many, and it was quite overwhelming. So just take a look at these headlines. As you can see, there's many, many examples that this is still happening in youth and high school sports today. And according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, it has a significant negative impact on children's health. I mean, Dr. Weaver was vividly recalling his experience that happened to him when he was a teenager, which shows you that the impact of these emotions and feelings are long lasting. And we know that it's still happening today. And we have a ways to go, to improve the culture of athletics and beyond. And we really call ourselves a culture shaping organization at Positive Coaching Alliance. And we've always described culture as the way we do things here. We've always described culture that way, but we never really took a moment to stop and think, what if not everyone feels a part of the we? What if not everyone feels a part of the we? It's easy to create a culture where when you have a homogeneous, group of people where everyone's the same race and everyone's the same gender or religion or social economic status, etc. But that's not the case. Our athletic cultures are filled with multiple types of people and unique individuals, and creating an environment that's physically, emotionally, and psychologically safe for all athletes is one of our most important roles as a leader. So can everyone use a chat box again and type in one word that you would use to describe your culture? One word that you would use to describe your athletic culture. Please use the chat box and share with us your word. Family, collaborative. Thank you for sharing. I'm seeing a lot of family cultures. I love it. Loving. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And, oftentimes it's important to share these words, but, it's more important to act on them, right? We have to make sure that our culture is a reflection of the things that we're saying, that we're doing, that we're upholding as well. I want to use a poll at this moment, and would love for you guys to participate in this poll. How often have you felt excluded for not being a part of the we? This can be in your personal life, your career, etc. Go ahead and take a moment and answer this poll. Thank you.
All right, they're coming in quickly, folks, so we greatly appreciate that. 54 votes, 37 are in. We'll give you another 12 seconds to cast your vote in. And please, let's get it in now because we will not be accepting any mail-in votes, unfortunately.
Thanks, Jodi. All right, we'll give them a few more seconds here.
All right, we'll close them in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Here are the results.
Thank you. All right, as we can see, most people have sometimes felt excluded for not being a part of the we. We have quite a few that said rarely, a couple that said never, or one person never, but also quite a few that said often, and even someone that said always. So as we know, for some people, this is a regular occurrence. So it's very important that we are stepping into our roles as leader to make sure that everyone feels a part of the we. So at this point, we're going to get in breakout rooms. We're going to compete. We love sports. Sports are fun, and we want to compete. So we're going to do an activity called the alphabet game, okay? We're going to put you in breakout rooms. You're going to have 2 minutes to make as many words as possible as a group, only using the first letter of your first names. So if I am in a group, my name's Marty, if I'm in a group with, let's say, Anthony and Trennis, we can make the word Matt, M-A-T, or we can make the word am. You don't have to use every letter with every word, but you only can use the first letter of the first names of all your group members, okay? So that's the rules. We're gonna give you 2 minutes, have someone write down how many words you come up with, and be ready to share your number in the chat box when we return. You don't have to share all the words in the chat box, just the number of words you come up with, okay? If you have any questions, let us know.
All right, folks, we're heading to our first breakout session. This is hands-free. You don't have to do anything, but somebody has to win and somebody has to lose because this is a competition. We'll see you back in the next 2 minutos.
Hey, folks, I just got a direct question from Susan Robbins. That's probably a good question for Trennis or Ripper. She says, this information is great. Do you all do these presentations for state associations? What's the best? I know we do, but how would you like me to respond? Would you like me to?
Jodi, can you pause the recording really quick?
Oh, sorry.
Right.
Recording has resumed. Let's find out who won.
All right, welcome back.
All right, we got some head nodding. Y'all are familiar with that song, but hopefully you had paid attention to the lyrics and that your spelling was easy as ABCs and 1, 2, 3. Marty, back to you.
Thanks, Jodi. All right, in the chat box, group 2 got 13. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, start dropping your numbers in the chat box. How many that your group came up with? Please share over here in the chat box. I'm looking at groups that got 9. Okay, 11. Wow, 12. These are some good numbers here. All right, I see you 5. Let's look at group 2. You got 13. How were you able to do so well? Someone from group 2, how was that experience of getting 13 words? Who's willing to come off of mute and share?
I can go for our group since I guess I was the note taker here. We just all collaborated really well. We got right into it. We didn't waste any time, and everybody started shouting out a couple of words here and there, and just awesome teamwork all together. Common goal.
Okay, it sounds like you had a great experience through that competition. Well, let me look at the group 1 who got 5 words. That doesn't seem like a lot at all. 5. What happened? Did you guys not try?
Wow, you gonna go there, Marty? That's cold. former another UCLA Bruin. Of course, I know how to spell, but you gave us one vowel. We didn't have a lot to work with here. I had great people, but we only had, we had an A, a L, a J, a V, a K, and a T. Not a lot of work with. So props to my group for coming up with 5. I mean, we could have made up words, but we don't cheat here. Honor is always the name of the game.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for being honest there and being honorable as well. We play this game with many different people, and sometimes they feel entitled to change the rules, right? So it sounds like you guys you had a difficult experience there because you didn't have any vowels. I'm sure those groups that got a lot of words weren't even thinking about, maybe not having access or having the privilege to have access to a vowel during that experience. Now, what does this game teach us about, let's say, inclusion or exclusion or privilege?
Lack of support or, when you're missing that help, it's really hard to succeed and to be able to provide or to make it through whatever exercise you're going through.
Right. Absolutely.
Thanks
for sharing, Amanda. Go ahead,
Elena. I would say if you don't have any vowels, it's just doesn't matter how hard you try, you're not going to be able to make a word. So if you start off with nothing, can't get there.
Thank you for sharing. Dave, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, resources matter.
Resources matter. Thank you. So the rules were the same for all. We just played a game where the rules were the same for all, but not everyone had an equitable opportunity, right, to succeed. Some, didn't have the privilege of having access to a vowel. So this game is, it shows us, and it's not too far off of some of the systems that are set up in our country currently that, aren't fair for all. And it's a great game to play with your athletes. If you're a coach, share this game with your coaches to help teach, about the discrepancies, and access and privilege. And, it's not just about everyone working hard, right? A lot of times people think, well, it's not a race thing. If you work hard, you're going to get there. That's not always the case. And we know that. So we have to make sure that we are pointing out the reality, right? And working hard to improve the systems and really change, the systems that are in place that aren't equitable for all. Which leads us to what we really want to create: a caring climate. A caring climate is an environment that is inviting, psychologically safe, supportive, and able to provide experience of being valued and respected. A place where everyone is treated with mutual kindness and respect and is able to perform well. This is a quote from Dr. Mary Fry on our National Advisory Board. This is our goal. We really want every culture to have a caring climate. And how do we do that? Here's a toolkit that we use. We want to start with listening with empathy. It's important to listen, to understand, have a culture that provides that space where people can really share, and you provide the space for those to share. And this is how we engage authentically with our colleagues, with our coaches, and also with the athletes as well. We encourage coaches to create an individual connection with each athlete, and also making sure that our athletes are supporting one another. We talk about filling the emotional tank at Positive Coaching Alliance. What are some ways that we show appreciation, fill that e-tank, and constantly create a climate that is caring and supportive where everyone feels a part of the we? So I'm going to pass it over to Sam and we get into our second workshop goal for today.
Thanks, Marty. So everybody can pause and take a breath here. We are making a pivot. We just concluded the curiosity and portion of our workshop. We're going to be talking about education now. And here's where we're going to be asking folks to stretch. Some of this information will be new to some of you. Some of this information won't. We're going to be looking at it specifically through a sports lens. And I'm looking, I just was struck because I'm looking at some of the participants and I'm realizing I see some familiar names on there. So I know we've got some ADs that have done workshops before, maybe even done this workshop before, and it's great to see the PCA support at Nomad. What I've got up on the screen right now is a definition of racism that's provided to us by one of our trusted resources, our trusted partner, RISE. This is an organization that is dedicated to empowering the sports community to eliminate racial discrimination, champion social justice, and improve race relations. This is one definition of racism. There are many out there. what I like about this definition is it acknowledges it's not just about action, but also belief. I think what this definition lacks is it doesn't acknowledge what Amanda called the structural or the systemic elements of racism. So important as we're moving forward to define our terms and think about what we mean when we're using the word racism. I'm going to give you a moment to take in this graphic that I've got up on this slide. This is a graphic that was developed by Benjamin Jansowitz in Baltimore in response to the refrain that we often hear of, oh, but slavery was so long ago. And I have many reactions when I look at this graphic, but I think a few of the takeaways from it are that when we start to look at things more generationally, you realize that slavery, segregation, these things were not that long ago, and that the legacy of these policies is still felt today. Sports has played a critical role in recent history, and we're going to take a closer look at that now, starting with a quote that I really like from Nelson Mandela. I am wondering if there's anyone who would like to hop off mute and go ahead and read this for us.
I'll read it. Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand.
Thank you so much, Alicia. One of the things that I think is striking about this quote is that it says it has the power to, not that it is. And I think part of what all of us are on this call about is figuring out how to harness that power and how we can use sports to unite people, and especially our youth. So we're going to take a deeper look now at how athletes have used sports as a vehicle to battle racism. And this is Althea Gibson. She was a pioneer, to battle and used her platform to battle racism for decades. She was world number one, I believe, more than a decade before Arthur Ashe. She was the first African-American to win a Grand Slam title. She won both the U.S. National Championship, which is what it was called before the U.S. Open, and Wimbledon back in 1957 and 1958. So there are many athletes, especially women who often go unrecognized, who have been using sports as a vehicle to battle racism. Got a short video to share with you now that takes a deeper look at how sports has been a vehicle to battle racism. And I'm just realizing that I'm not sure that I shared my sound. So I'm going to take this down and reshare it to make sure that you can all hear this video when I play it. All right, let's give this a try.
The Waves of Activism research done by Dr. Harry Edwards tells the story of the ongoing plight of the Black American through sports moments, starting with the struggle for legitimacy. It took 18 Black American athletes, including Jesse Owens and Mac Robinson, competing in the 1936 Olympics, excelling against the odds and bringing home 14 medals to be seen and recognized as legitimate human beings. After the Olympics, Mac Robinson returned home to his 17-year-old little brother, who would eventually go on to break the color barrier in the MLB. We all know him as Jackie Robinson. The second wave of activism was a struggle for access. Although color barriers are being broken across many sports locker rooms, there was still ongoing oppression, discrimination, and inequality across America, which leads us to the third wave of activism, the struggle for dignity and respect. We see the civil rights movement and the iconic moment at the 1968 Olympics with Tommie Smith and John Carlos putting their black fists in the air on the medal stand. When they returned home from the Olympics, they were kicked off the team, but the U.S. still claimed the medals they won. This was devastating for them, but later in life, John Carlos said, "We had to be seen because we could not be heard." Today, we are in the Black Lives Matter movement, which started after a string of documented murders were widely shared starting in 2012, and athletes like Colin Kaepernick and the WNBA picking up the torch of their predecessors and taking a knee during the anthem with intentions to protest police brutality and injustice within our judicial systems. Female athletes have been under-recognized in sports activism, when they've often been leading the charge. Today, we see a wave of non-Black allies standing in solidarity across the world with the Black community, recognizing we have a social justice issue and we can no longer ignore it. None of these victories were final, from humanization to access to dignity and respect to justice. We are still on the long path with a ways to go towards racial equality and social justice, and we can work together in doing our part to continue to battle racism.
So I wasn't kidding when I said that the group you've got on this workshop today helped build this workshop. That was Marty's voice narrating that video you probably recognized. And I want to highlight in particular Jackie Robinson's story, because I think it's one that many of us are familiar with some of the key highlights of, and there's a couple pieces of it that we wanted to highlight that people aren't as familiar with. The two parts of his story that are often untold are that it was a huge team accomplishment, all of what Jackie Robinson was able to do. I think especially in the US, we kind of find our hero and we make it this story of individual triumph, but he had an incredible team behind him, starting with his wife, Rachel Robinson, his teammates, Pee Wee Reese, the Black fans that supported him. It was a tremendous, his is the story of a community. It's not just individual success. And I think the other part of his story that often is untold was his love of country. Jackie was a veteran. He served in the US Army in the 40s. And while he was serving in the US Army, he was traveling on a military bus, and he was instructed to go to the back of the bus. And he refused and was actually court-martialed and arrested for that. So toward the end of his short 53 years on this earth, Jackie could not bring himself to stand for the national anthem, questioning whether the country that he loved so much loved him back. I think it's important to look at all of the layers around this story, and I think looking at our history helps inform how we can move things forward. Oh, I missed my quote. Marty's going to pivot us now to talk about moral courage and how we can take some of this history that we've talked about and translate that into some action moving forward.
Thank you, Sam. I had to unmute myself. Okay, so we might not always have a platform like a professional sports team or a Jackie Robinson, but we can do what we can with what we have, and that means standing up for what is right, having moral courage. This is a definition provided by our founder, Jim Thompson, standing up for what you believe is right when others, sometimes your friends or teammates, don't. So this is what we really want to make sure that we are developing within our cultures, within our teams, our athletic programs, and in our communities. We must practice moral courage. So we're going to get into our last breakout room for today and go over this scenario. Now, these are actual real life scenarios that have actually happened at athletic programs across the country. It has been brought to your attention by an angry parent that one of your coaches has been allowing a yearly tradition called Slave Day, where the freshmen have to do everything the seniors say. This tradition has been going on for years without your knowledge and was recently shared out on social media. What do you do? So this is a tough scenario here. I want you to put yourself in these shoes and really take a moment in your groups. We'll give you about 4 minutes to discuss how you would respond to this tough moment. And then we'll come back together, and please have someone from your group ready to share what you discussed in your breakout rooms. All right, thanks.
All right, folks, we're going into our next breakout. Again, as Marty stated, you're going to have 4 minutes. So do please have someone in your group ready to share by either coming off of mute, or you can definitely type things into the chat. So we'll see you back in the next 4 minutes. It's taking a little longer. There we go.
It's a big group. I think maybe that's why.
Usually shouldn't be. Let's see. We get you in a minute, folks. Let's see.
Where did Marty go?
Uh-oh, did I send her off?
There she is.
Pressed the wrong name. My fault, Marty.
I came back.
Christy!
Let's pause the recording as well. So make sure that you're tapping into your athletic director community when it comes to these things as well. Now we're going to talk about some tools just to manage some moments where they
real quick, Marty. Mr. Thomas has something.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
I'll just
Sorry,
be
I
real
didn't see
quick,
your hand.
Marty. Just the
Sorry.
one last piece that someone brought up is that this is also an opportunity for our student leaders. And there's nothing more powerful than peer-to-peer education. So once you go through that work of, and peeling back the layers with your student athletes, then have your student leaders go back to the rest of the teams. Maybe the other teams have traditions that need to be checked. So sharing that experience. And then also one that's even more powerful, Vicky brought this up in my group, in group one, is having the students go to a faculty meeting and teach the faculty. That was a really powerful moment as well.
Anthony, that's the perfect segue to the next portion of this workshop. Really empowering the student leaders as well to step up. Often when people see or experience racism, overt or subtle forms, the most common response is to do nothing, which is called a bystander, right? That's the easiest thing to do, could be safer in moments, but it allows racist ideas and behavior to perpetuate. So there's two options that we want to teach our student athletes to do in moments like this. And we can teach the coaches to use this with their players as well. You can, in these moments, you can call someone out. Let me share my screen again. You can call someone out, which is, shutting someone down directly, often in a public space without intent to address or rectify the damage. Or you can try calling someone in, which is, letting them know that their comment was hurtful, often in private, providing space for dialogue to learn and grow. Listen, both of these options are useful, and you might decide which option to use depending on the context. What was that person's intent? Are they deliberately trying to be disrespectful? Then by all means call them out. And this is what you're telling your athletes, right? Or did they just say something they don't understand? We have to call them in. Considering the power dynamics, when talking to your coaches or to your athletes about this, they might not feel comfortable calling in a superior or an upperclassman as an athlete. But if you have a relationship with someone already, it makes the call-in method easier, right? So I'm not trying to tell someone who's being oppressed how to respond to their oppressor. Do what's most comfortable for you. But I do believe in our current culture and society, we're using the call out method probably 90% of the time, and the call in method only 10% of the time, which should be reversed. If we're looking to grow and see change and have impact, we have to be willing to show empathy and grace and practice patience, but also be persistent and let people know when their comments and behavior is harmful. Here are some racism interrupters. Here are some things that are quick to use, to say, quick phrases to have ready until maybe you have the time and the knowledge and understanding to have a deeper discussion. This is something you could share with your coaches and have them share with the athletes as well. Interrupting racism is an essential part of showing up. These are just important things that you can share quickly. We're encouraging everyone to do something in these moments, in these difficult moments of moral courage. Here is our moral courage toolkit. So being an upstander, deciding to do something, take a stance, say something, and do the right thing. Practicing gratitude is really important to involve in your culture. If you're setting the tone and the environment of gratitude, it's helping you step outside of your own shoes, practice empathy, setting the tone to really have others experience or view, different experiences from others' point of view. And then create a call-in culture. We really encourage you to create a call-in culture within your program. So we're gonna move forward to the last and final workshop goal for this afternoon. Go ahead, Sam.
That's right. We are at the home stretch here, and at what perhaps is the most important part of the workshop. And we've had such great discussion so far. Elise, I think it was, I just lost my chat. I saw a great comment in the chat that said it's one thing to talk about it, it's another to take action. So it's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about next, which is how do you as athletic directors take action?
That's what evil depends on, good people to be quiet.
Bring it full circle to Dr. Weaver's story that kicked off our workshop today. Evil depends on good people being quiet. And we've got a room full of some good people here who I'd like you to think about how we can make some noise around this and actually make things actionable. I'm going to seed you with a few ideas, then I'm going to ask you to drop your ideas into the chat. So this first one probably benefits from a little bit of explanation. Plan a neutralizing routine. The idea here is to learn how to recognize your own internal biases, implicit biases, and internalized racism, and think about how you can plan ahead. Just like we expect our coaches to plan practice, we expect our athletes to have a game plan when they're going into a game. You know, going into your seasons, there's going to be some incidents that come up. So how can you have some neutralizing routine planned where you can recognize situations where you might be susceptible to making snap judgments? You can have a way to delay a response, to buy yourself some time to really think about the situation. And when thinking about discipline, choose the least exclusionary option. You're thinking about how to approach discipline. That comes with that calling out, calling in discussion Marty talked about. And then middle one, evaluating your team's league and policies and taking a look. I love the idea of, some of you have talked about establishing an athlete council, getting the athletes involved to really take a look at things you might miss that could be improved. And the one that I already see all of you doing by virtue of being on this workshop today is to model the behavior, model anti-racist behavior that you want to see. So what I'd like to invite the group to do now is final thought. Forgot my fourth part of the toolkit. Would you, are you open to maybe having some sort of visible outward pledge? This is an example from our trusted resource RISE. We saw their definition of racism earlier. They've got this up on their website. Is this something that your athletic department or some of your teams might be willing to put together a statement or find one online that you'd all feel comfortable, so that it's something that's out and visible and tangible for athletes? We've now spent 90 some minutes together. You've had a chance to develop some curiosity, to learn more about sports as a tool to battle racism, done a breakout room with a different scenario. What can you commit to today based on what you've learned? And we're going to give you maybe, Jodi, 2 or 3 minutes of just some silence to think through what you can commit to. And I would love to have some leaders here. When you're ready, put some ideas in the chat. One of the most, I think what Marty and I have found is one of the most inspiring parts of these workshops is when we can see what our peers are committing to. And I draw tons of inspiration from that. So I'm hoping that folks will be willing to share.
Go ahead and share the next slide of the list of the toolkits that we gave them today.
Thank you.
Do you want to be great? Do you want to be?
All right, Sam, you want to take turns reading some of these?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I'll start with the first one. The first brave person who came in, Chris, said, our athletic conference has committed to creating an ongoing coaching workshop to help our coaches learn to educate and develop anti-racist student athletes.
I will commit to calling in more than I call out and encourage those coaches and players to do the same when they see, hear, or do something that should be addressed. Thanks, Chris.
I commit to harnessing, I like that word, harnessing the power of our athletic department to make our school a more inclusive place. Thank you, Dave.
I commit to
maybe one more.
One more. Okay. I commit to speaking about diversity and racism with my head coaches. Thank you, Linda. All right.
Thank you all for thinking about how to make this a tangible, actionable thing. We have some parting words from John Lewis to share.
Emmett Till was my George Floyd. He was my Rayshard Brooks, Sandra Bland, and Breonna Taylor. He was 14 when he was killed, and I was only 15 years old at the time. I will never, ever forget the moment when it became so clear that he could easily have been me. When you see something that is not right, you must say something. You must do something. Each generation must do its part to help build what we call the beloved community. Though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest calling of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. Now it is your turn to let freedom ring.
'Cause 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 ' Powerful words from John Lewis. It's been a real privilege to be able to spend this time with you today. Jodi's going to wrap things up for us, including explaining how you can save that chat if you'd like to, as I would, be able to remember and reflect on some of these commitments that your peers are making as we think about how we can use sports as a tool to battle racism. Jodi?
Yes, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Marty, and thank you, everyone, for this great workshop. Hopefully you all really enjoyed this workshop, as we always do when we conduct these workshops. And again, we appreciate partnerships like yours as we continue to make better athletes, better people. I'm going to send in a couple of links for you all. If you are interested in bringing PCA to your school, you can visit us at Sports Can Battle Racism link. We're going to complete this workshop with a text to sign in, and these are the coaching resources that you all will be receiving. We have a weekly email series of our Sports Can Battle Racism, and in that it'll provide these action toolkits that we discussed today, but also some additional resources as well. What I'm going to do is put in a PDF into the chat. Once you see that PDF, click on that PDF, save it to your hard drive. It has additional links and resources from what we covered in this workshop on today. So again, this will be able to help you all continue to spread the word to your coaching staff, and then also to your athletes as well. Also put in links into the chat as you see on the screen. Visit us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and also LinkedIn. I am also going to include a survey link. If you would not mind, please complete this survey link before you officially go to lunch. Let us know how we did on today and how we can continue to serve you and continue to get better, to be able to partner with you in helping making better athletes, better people. And then last but not least, our text to sign in. So if you would not mind, please get out your cell phones. This is how we're going to give you credit for this workshop. And what we're going to do is text to the number 650-763-2405. Again, that is 650-763-2405. In your message box, in the body of message, the first character you must put in is that # hashtag number sign. Whatever your generational term is for that sign, we must have that sign in first. Followed by the numbers 142511. Please, no spaces between that # and no 6 numbers. Second line will be your first and last name, and then third line will be your email address. So we must send a 3-line message for a successful text. Your information is not provided outside of PCA. It is for internal purposes only. The only reason why we will use your number is you're going to get a reply as soon as you hit send saying, "Thank you for attending today's PCA workshop." You will not get another text from PCA unless you attend a future PCA workshop. And then your email address will be needed to be able to provide that weekly email series of our Sports Can Battle Racism. And then also you'll receive a certificate of completion stating that you have completed this particular workshop on this day. You should be able to receive that certificate on tomorrow. I've also put the text to sign in instructions into the chat. We put a lot of content into the chat, so if you are interested in saving this chat, if you have that chat box open, click on the 3 dots to the bottom right next to File. And then you'll see Save Chat. And then you will be able to save this anywhere on your hard drive, rename it, move it. If you do a default save, it'll be in a Zoom folder in your hard drive with today's date on it. Sports Can Battle Racism as the title, as well as Nomad should be on there as well. So you'll be able to search it and look it up quickly. Again, you're saving this and it'll save in a text format. And on behalf of Marty, Sam, and our whole PCA family, folks, thank you so much for this time. Before we officially allow you to sign off, we're going to turn this over to Anthony, and you all stay safe, take care, and we'll see you next time. Anthony?
Thank you, Jodi. Great job. Really appreciate it. Just want to share my screen one last time and give some folks just some updates on what we're going to be doing next. Again, appreciate all of you who participated today. And this will conclude our season for the year, and what a year it's been. But stay tuned for season 2, which will continue to provide dynamic content, and you'll hear from board members And we will be reaching out to Nomad members next year and calling on them to provide some of their expertise. As a family and as a community, we can learn from each other. Then, in just a few weeks away, we're going to invite you to join us for our Nomad 1-year anniversary, June 5th, 2021 at 5 p.m. That would be Pacific Standard Time. Join us as we raise a glass in celebration of this past year. Then we will look ahead to season 2 and share our strategic plan, the launching of our quick take video series, and the announcement of our new partnerships for members. So we have a lot planned, but we've been through a lot this year. And lastly, I'm just going to challenge all of us to make those commitments. I was on a workshop earlier this year where I had some athletic directors say to me, it's just been such a hard year. I don't have time. I'm too stressed. And I got that, but I didn't let it go. No amount of stress can replace the indignity and the trauma that people of color and everyone in this country, white and Black, have been impacted by racism. And we cannot and shall not take a break until we try to eradicate it and improve our communities. So I challenge you, take this time over the summer, think about what you want to do, come back refreshed and ready to go for that new school year, starting off with sports, but also starting off in an inclusive community and working with your coaches. Do a workshop before your season starts with your coaches and setting expectations for what 2021, 2022 will be. And then let's work together as Nomad, as a family, and as our new partner, PCA. We're so proud of you and what you have done for us. Marty, Sam, Jodi, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. We hope you have an incredible rest of your week. And we look forward to seeing you again real soon.